Good evening, it's Saturday, the 2nd of August. You're tuned in to our 10 p.m. newscast coming to you from ARIRANG's news centre in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story tonight, Typhoon Nakri is slamming parts of southern Korea tonight, packing strong, gusty winds and dropping heavy rains over large parts of the country. The inclement conditions on this Saturday have led to the cancellation of scores of flights and left hundreds of homes without power at different times of the day, but the lights are now back on. Now, Kim Yeon-bin reports.
Heavy rainfall and strong winds are expected throughout the weekend due to the effects of Typhoon Nakri. Amid the harsh conditions, over 230 international and domestic flights in and out of Jeju International Airport have been cancelled, and over 1,000 households on the island were briefly without power. Across the southern part of the country, there were numerous reports of property damage, broken traffic lights, and fallen trees blocking streets. Several festivals in the south of the country have also been cancelled or delayed. The typhoon is traveling in a northward direction at a speed of roughly 15 kilometers per hour. The mid-scale typhoon packing winds up to 25 meters per second has tipped almost 870 millimeters of rain on Jeju's Mount Halla since it started to affect the area. Waves as high as 8 meters have been seen on Jeju Island. And the choppy seas mean all passenger ferries to the island were suspended on Friday. The typhoon is moving north to the central part of Korea, as well as the capital Seoul. Strong winds and rain are in the forecast for Sunday and early next week. But the typhoon is expected to weaken as it passes over the western coast of the peninsula. Kim Yeon-bin, ARIRANG News.
2 American tourists detained in North Korea on anti-state charges are pleading with the US government to do what it can to secure their release. Matthew Miller and Jeffrey Fowles say they expect to be tried soon and given long prison terms. Both told the AP news agency that they have been treated pretty well, but they are worried that conditions will end up getting a lot worse. They were detained separately, but were both accused of committing hostile acts while in the country. Now, 56-year-old Jeffrey Fowle entered North Korea in late April and was detained in early June as he was leaving the country. He reportedly left a Bible in the toilet of a restaurant in the northern port city of Cheongjin, but his family are adamant that he was not on a mission for his church. North Korean authorities say 24-year-old Matthew Miller entered the country on April 10th with a tourist visa, but tore it up at the airport and shouted that he wanted to seek asylum. A new deputy commander of American forces here in Korea has been appointed by President Barack Obama. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel says Air Force Major General Terrence J. O'Shaughnessy has been nominated for appointment to the rank of Lieutenant General, and for the Deputy Commander of UN Command Korea, Deputy USFK Commander and Commander of the 7th Air Force. O'Shaughnessy is currently serving as Director of Operations at the US Pacific Command Headquarters in Hawaii. If formally appointed, he will replace Lieutenant General Jean-Marc Duas. Korean automakers have made a concerted effort to enter the Russian market in recent years and have been largely successful. And while a growing number of Hyundai and Kias can be seen on the streets of major Russian cities such as Moscow and St. Petersburg, the companies are still generally struggling to turn a decent profit. Our Kim Min-ji explains why.
Korea's largest automotive group is gaining a better foothold in the Russian market, but that hasn't translated into higher profits. Hyundai Motor and Kia Motor sold a combined 184,000 vehicles in Russia during the first 6 months of the year. That's down about 0.5% from a year earlier, but compared to other automakers, the two Korean companies are faring relatively well. Overall car sales in the country fell nearly 8% in the first half. Renault Nissan Avtovaz saw their total sales drop nearly 6%, General Motors 17.5%, and Ford a whopping 38.7%. Hyundai and Kia did particularly well in June, selling around 34,000 automobiles in total, which gave them a market share of 16.9%. This was good enough for first place among all companies, and even ahead of Russia's leading carmaker Avtovaz, which claimed about 15%. This, however, has not corresponded into higher gains. The Russian arm of both Hyundai and Kia posted net losses of over $22 million each during the first quarter. Some cars sold in Russia are manufactured in Korea, so the depreciation of the ruble to the won has pulled down profit numbers. The ruble traded against the won at 31.86 at the beginning of the year. The value had fallen nearly 10% as of July. Industry insiders say it's extremely difficult to reap profits in Russia right now, and it seems likely that the weak ruble will dent earnings of Hyundai and Kia for the time being. 김민지, 아리랑 뉴스.
At least 68 people have been killed and more than 100 injured in an explosion at a factory in eastern China. The country's Xinhua news agency reports the blast tore through a metal products factory in Kunshan, a city in Jiangsu province. The factory, run by a company called Zhongrong, makes car and bicycle parts and specializes in alloy and electroplating. There were more than 200 workers at the site when the blast occurred. Preliminary investigations show the explosion was likely caused by an accumulation of dust that ignited as workers were polishing metal wheel rims in a workshop. Turning now to the latest on the crisis in the Middle East. And Hamas says it has no clear indication on the whereabouts of an Israeli soldier that Israel accused it of abducting in Gaza. 23-year-old Hadar Goldin went missing on Friday. His presumed capture could vastly complicate the already very difficult ceasefire efforts. Israel quickly declared a planned 72-hour Gaza ceasefire over on Friday, saying Hamas militants breached the truce soon after it took effect. Now, hospital officials in Gaza say Israeli shelling on Friday killed at least 150 Palestinians and wounded hundreds of others. Now, the latest death toll we have is almost 1,700 Palestinians, and they are mainly civilians, including a great many women and children, and some 60 Israeli soldiers have been killed over the last 3.5 weeks. A team of 70 Dutch and Australian forensic experts have hailed what they called the biggest day yet at the site of the flight MH17 crash in eastern Ukraine. A spokesman for the OSCE, Special Monitoring Mission to Ukraine, says experts have been able to recover the victims' remains for the first time in any significant way. Sporadic fighting between Ukrainian soldiers and pro-Russian separatists had previously prevented the investigation team reaching this key area. Now, footage, as we can see there, shows seat belts and shoes and other parts of the plane strewn across the area. So far, 227 of the 298 victims have been flown to the Netherlands for identification. The Ebola outbreak in West Africa is spreading faster than efforts to control it. The head of the World Health Organization, Margaret Chan, says that failure to contain the outbreak could be catastrophic in terms of lives lost. She says the virus, which has killed more than 700 people in Guinea, Liberia and Sierra Leone since February, could actually be stopped if it's well managed. Meanwhile, a retired American doctor who was working with Ebola patients in West Africa returned to the US this week, and he put himself into quarantine. Alan Jameson says he has no symptoms of the deadly disease, but has been in seclusion since Monday and plans to stay in isolation for 3 weeks. Now, the Korean government is warning Korean nationals against travelling to all 3 countries hit by this outbreak and are advising those residing in the area to get out ASAP. There are some 200 Korean nationals in the 3 West African countries. Now, a little closer to home, if you're planning a trip to one of Korea's many beaches this summer, you'll want to stay on your guard while you're in the water, because warmer sea temperatures around the nation have provided a comfortable habitat for jellyfish, but it will soon provide you with an uncomfortable trip to the hospital if you become one of the growing number of sting victims. Our Son Jong-in reports.
The recent spell of hot weather has attracted a rising number of unwelcome visitors to Korea's beaches. Jellyfish. They're beautiful on the outside, but their venom is among the most toxic on Earth. More and more of these creatures are being spotted on the coastlines of the peninsula this year. The number of jellyfish victims has jumped 2.5 times over the past 5 years. And August is the most common time for jellyfish attacks. Last year, 7 out of every 10 victims were stung in the month. The results can be painful.
Symptoms can include a stinging pain, itching, and a rash. A more powerful sting can cause nausea, breathing difficulties, and even death.
If you're stung, it is recommended you wash the affected area immediately with seawater. You should avoid rinsing it with tap or fresh water because it can cause more venom to be released from cells that may still be attached on the skin. Any remaining tentacles should be removed, first by lifting them off using a plastic card and then by plucking them out with tweezers. 손정인, 아리랑 뉴스.
And finally, taking a look at the weekend weather. Most of the central region, including the capital, is under overcast skies this evening. We are expecting rain later. Now, most of the south is seeing rain right now, which will continue throughout Sunday and well into Monday as the country remains under the effect of Typhoon Nakri. The rain will bring the temperatures down too, with tomorrow's high in Seoul topping out in the high 20s. Let's take a look at the weather conditions wherever you are in the world. And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. For more of the latest stories, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.co.kr/news. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.